Hello and welcome to this Tip of the Week video where we will be going through the service process of a hedge trimmer blade. The two blades, or the set of blades I have in front of me, are off of a Stihl HS56. They are a double-sided blade, so they have teeth on both sides. The friend of mine who gave me these blades to sharpen for this video let me know that he had about 4 seasons on them, but he had also attempted some grinding with a Dremel on some of the teeth, the ones he could access when it was together. However, there are some safety guards where he couldn't get to every tooth. So he has some kind of intermittent sharpening through it that he needed to do to get through that last season. For this video, we'll be taking one of the blades and going through that service process. We will first clean the blade in the MAG-6000 blade cleaner, which we normally use for lawnmower blades, but it also works very well for hedge trimmer blades because, of course, there's all this very bonded, you could say, vegetable material and sap and other things that are on this blade that we want to get off so that when they're put back together, they reciprocate nicely again, as well as after they're sharpened. So once we do the cleaning process, we'll then move to this MAG-6000 hedge trimmer blade sharpener, where we will sharpen all the teeth. We will first be on one side of the machine doing all the teeth. We'll turn the blade around, do all the other teeth. Then we'll go to the other side of the machine and do the other 2 edges. Here we have a close-up view of the blade, and hopefully you can see some of these edges here, and you can see that they are quite worn, and also how dirty this blade is all through the whole length of it. You can see kind of the clean spots where the blade is joined together with the fasteners. And now we're ready to do the cleaning with the MAG-12008 blade cleaner. This unit has 2 large wire brushes to be able to clean both sides of the blade at the same time. And here hopefully you can see we've got all that dark sap and everything off of the blade, and the blade is ready to be sharpened. Here you have a nice close-up view of the difference of a clean blade to a dirty blade. Here is of course the clean blade that we did in the MAG-12000, and here is the dirty blade that we did not. And I'll show you also the underside difference of the two. We'll turn those over. And you can again see how clean the one that was run through the blade cleaner is and how quickly we did that. Now we're here at the MAG-6000 hedge trimmer blade sharpener. Currently, upon inspection, I did not find any large nicks in his blade where we would need to do some underside deburring. So everything is sitting flat on the table because of course we have to be flat on our tabletop to ensure we're getting our correct angle. So now I'll go ahead and we'll sharpen this side of this hedge trimmer blade. Now that we've done all those teeth in this direction, we'll go to the other side of the machine. We'll swing this fence over to match the other fence and do the rest of the teeth. Now we have the machine turned around to the other side to do the other teeth. Now, because I had been doing some Stihl blades earlier with this machine, I have this rear fence already set to this same tooth depth and pitch. So we only have to swing the front fence out of the way to get that to match up. So we line up teeth against the rear fence, which is already tight, so we can bump up against that. We'll bring the front fence, make sure the knobs are loose enough, and we can bring those up to the teeth. Again, making sure we have contact in the back, contact in the front. We can hold this fence down and then tighten the two knobs, and then take a second look, making sure all the teeth are contacting front and rear fences so that we know we're in a straight line. Now we can begin sharpening. Now you saw me sharpen all of the teeth on this total blade, both directions, both sides. The last operation for the service of this blade is to deburr the underside, because of course you may have noticed there were some teeth I ground a little bit longer or went back to because I ended up seeing that there was a nick, and I ground out the nick completely so we had a full cutting edge again. However, now some of that grinding, when you have to fix some repair, or even if they're very dull, which these were fairly dull, you will roll a burr to the underside of the blade. So now we will have to deburr that underside, but of course we do not want to remove hardly any material when we do that. So we have the MAG-6000 designed with these two yellow rails and the silver ramp in here, which is adjustable if ever need be, but this silver ramp gives the belt a height in relationship to these yellow rails to very, very lightly touch the underside of the blade so that you can't dig in and remove a lot of material. And when you watch me demonstrate this, it is just a very light pass across the bottom. You can then visually inspect to see that you contacted everything and perhaps do a second pass, but usually only one is required, and it looks like this. Here again is a close-up of the two blades side by side. Of course, the one on the right is the cleaned and sharpened blade, and the one on the left is the unserviced blade from the same set. So I'll kind of try and manipulate this in the light a little bit so you can see some of these edges and the finish on them. These edges were all ground with the 100 grit belt. That's what we had in the machine, because there were some nicks and damage to this blade, but we could have used a 120 grit belt for either a second grind to then even make a finer finish. But you can see by the side by side here, the 100 grit does already put on quite a nice finish. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed that video and found it helpful to see a full servicing of one double-sided blade in the MAG-6000 hedge trimmer blade sharpener from Magna-Matic Corporation. And again, as I said, we went through the full service process of cleaning the blade in the MAG-12,000 and then the full sharpening process with the MAG-600. And one last little note I'll make. Of course, you saw us do the underside deburring with the top of the belt. Sometimes when you have a blade where you had to remove a lot of material because it was gone well past its service point or had a lot of nicks and damage, you sometimes can also get a little bit of a burr that even from deburring the underside, you'll roll back to the top side. If you have something like that, simply some fine 120 grit sandpaper with a light just by hand touching each tooth to get rid of that burr can take care of that if that occurs because the blade needed significant repair. So again, you can find this and more information at Magna-Matic.com, and you can check out more information about the MAG-6000. Thank you very much for watching.